very honored and pleased to be joined by Michael Siegal, the chair of the Jewish Agency for Israel, their board of governors. Michael's an old and dear friend, and I've asked him to join us this morning as we continue to raise funds for our Israel emergency appeal, to tell us a little bit about what the Jewish Agency is doing on the ground in Israel as this crisis, now lingering into its 10th day, continues to unfold. Michael, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark, and congratulations on your new assignment. We're very pleased and happy that you're now in your new role.
Thank you.
And particularly at the Jewish Agency, we want to thank all of the federations around North America for their support of what we do and for the ongoing connectivity to the state of Israel. Obviously, with the Jewish Agency right now, as its highest priority under the very difficult circumstances, is to make sure that, one, we are protecting the people under our charge. So today, even during these times, we have roughly about 7,800 Olim that are in our absorption center. So last year, even under the pandemic, we brought in about 19,000 Olim to the state of Israel from all over the world, including many from Ethiopia. They're living in absorption centers for a period of time, and clearly their safety is our highest priority. In addition to that, we have the 7,000 senior citizens that live in our Amigor buildings, and we have to make sure that they have the ability to get to their shelters all across the country, particularly in the South. So the responsibility, not only for those individuals that are under our care, but we also have the Massage students that are around the country. So the first priority is to make sure that we have the safety and security of those people. Second, in terms of our mission, which is to basically make sure that we can support and uplift the society of Israel in today's environment, our Victims of Terror Fund, which you are aware of and which you have been supportive of, is one in which was created about 10 years ago. When we started to realize that individual families or people, when they have their homes or their businesses destroyed, they have no cash. They've literally wind up with no money to buy food. They wind up with no money to buy diapers for children. And so, other than their neighbors giving them credit, what the Jewish Agency undertook was a program to deliver cash. We actually deliver money immediately within 24 or 48 hours to those victims of the terror, so that they can go out in a bridging fashion to actually buy groceries, to buy food, to buy critical needs for their survival.
In the present situation, again, as I mentioned, this has been dragging on for more than a week now. There have been more than 35 rockets launched by Hamas into Israel. Can you give us an idea of the scope of the support that you provided thus far and what you might expect going forward?
Well, again, you have to also consider the fact that our employees have their families and their concerns and their morale. So I want to applaud the remarkable people of the Jewish Agency who are actually going out and leaving their homes into the field to do the very necessary work, including in some of the Bedouin and Druze communities. It's not just the Jewish community. So I think that we certainly know that we've delivered to 50 victims, give or take.
Families
of victims of this barrage. Clearly, there is more need than we've been able to deliver, but we also have to go and get our people to be willing to go from where the money is in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and get it down to the south or to wherever the necessary funds are needed. So the employees are out there doing their work under the same trauma that all Israelis are dealing with now. I mean, I'm sure you've seen, and I've seen friends and relatives sitting in the shelters. People, in this world take selfies, and you see in the middle of the night, small children, babies sitting in shelters. And so the Jewish Agency, its work continues. We're still trying to think about the future. We're still trying to make sure that in your local communities, the Shlachim and the Shinshinim are going to go out to summer camps. We missed a year under the pandemic. It's hard to even think about the pandemic with so many bombs falling on Israel.
Mhm.
But, you know, we still have ongoing things that we need to do to make sure that the Jewish community stays resilient, both here and there, and connected to
I,
Israel.
I know that there are many, I have a close friend who lives on kibbutz near which is right on the border with Gaza. And he and his family, when they thought it was relatively safe to do so, got into a car and came to central Jerusalem. And I know that there are many that have evacuated to the center of the country. And I understand that the Jewish Agency is also providing respite and emergency support for these families. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the Jewish Agency has a history of when these wars occurs, especially around children. You know, we basically have programs that bring people out for day trips. What we found over time, and you learn, you know, we used to take the kids out for days at a time, but then the children said they missed their parents. So the respite that we do is bring them to water park or bring them to an area where they can have some degree of normalcy for a day. You know, it's really about mental health, which is a real crisis during these periods of time. So we try and marshal significant amounts of children, particularly to get out of the war zones and then have a day of normalcy with other children. So that's one of the things that we coordinate for years.
So the last thing I'd like to cover is much more on a personal level of the stories you alluded to. Employees of the Jewish Agency, of course, needing to take the same safety precautions as anyone else in Israel would, while at the same time trying to deliver these urgently needed services. Any particular story of a family or an employee at the Jewish Agency that has resonated with you over the past few days?
Yeah, so funny you ask that. You know, yesterday I had a phone call with Amir Aronovich, who is the Mankal, or as we, basically the CEO of the Jewish Agency. So we typically have a Sunday morning call. She was driving in her car with her two children. And she said, the roads are empty and I'm driving about 160 kilometers an hour because when I have my children in the car, I'm concerned about the siren going off and I have to get to where I'm going as fast as I can because I don't always know where a shelter is. She says it's different when I drive by myself. I know I have to go out of the car, but when I have my children with me, so the level of anxiety and fear is so elevated. And she was going basically from visiting her father, who is in a senior facility, just to see him because of the loneliness, not only of the post-pandemic, where many people have been in isolation, but this war certainly puts senior citizens in a more isolated position. So just going to see your parents creates trauma because you have to go into a car. And you don't know what's going to happen because these bombs are going off day and night.
And certainly that sense of uncertainty creates additional stress. It creates fear. And here from 6,000 miles distance away, we can only imagine what they're going through. It's real, it's visceral, it's present, it's now. And the best way that we can respond at the Jewish Federation of Broward County is to provide all the support we can now for our Israel Emergency Campaign to meet needs for the Jewish Agency and the other beneficiary agencies that we support throughout the year. So I'm asking all of you, there'll be some information on a slide coming up next where you'll be able to make your contribution to our emergency fund. The support is desperately needed, and we thank you in advance for doing everything you can. And Michael Siegal, Chairman of the Jewish Agency for Israel, we thank you for spending your time with us today. We know you're very busy dealing with this with the folks in Israel, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mark, thank you, and thank all the people of Broward County for their support.